Today we're talking about dealing with difficult employees and how to crack the code with these two simple steps. Step one is to manage your mind before you manage the difficult person, and step two is to manage the difficult person. When the behavior of an employee perpetually impacts the ability of other employees to effectively do their jobs, you have a difficult employee on your hands, and it's your responsibility as a leader to step in and do something about it. But what constitutes a difficult employee is still pretty subjective. So that is why it's really important for you to take the time to manage your own mind before you attempt to manage the difficult employee. Spending even just a few minutes on this part of the work will ensure you have clarity on what you perceive as difficult and what your role as the leader is in this person's difficult behavior. Then you can look at it more objectively and proceed with managing the difficult person with confidence. So again, step one is to manage your mind before you manage the difficult employee. The truth is, people are not difficult. They may behave in a way that you perceive as difficult, but people themselves are not difficult. They're just busy being who they've always been based on a lifetime of experience, just like you and me. If how they behave is different than what you expect, you're going to perceive it as being difficult, but that doesn't make it universally true. You can change your thoughts about their behavior at any time. Now, I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying you should be clear on what those thoughts are, because how you see someone in your mind is the best they will ever be in your presence. And as soon as you believe someone is difficult, it impacts how you interact with them. This belief also prompts your brain to start to look for evidence to support it and prove itself right. This isn't necessarily intentional, it's just how our brains work. But when you're spending most of your time thinking about how someone else should or shouldn't behave, you're not spending your time thinking about how, or even if, you've established clear behavioral expectations and how, or if, you're effectively coaching them to meet those expectations. You're not examining your role in their difficult behavior. You can start exploring the role you're playing with these quick reflection questions. What behaviors do I experience as difficult? What expectations do I have for how people should or shouldn't interact with me and others? How do they know this is what I expect of them? Am I absolutely certain they know and understand these expectations? These questions will be super helpful, but I strongly encourage you to also download my free guide, the High Impact One-to-One Meeting Toolkit. You can find it in the link in the description below, because I've included a bonus section on how to have an effective one-to-one meeting with even your most difficult employee, and that includes a bunch of additional reflection questions. So while this probably doesn't make a lot of sense the first time you hear it, I promise that the fastest way to get different behaviors and results from someone is to change how you think about them. Because changing your thoughts will change how you feel, and changing how you feel will change how you behave and coach them. You will not be able to be a high impact leader and coach this person until you do this work. Think about this. When you feel frustrated with this difficult person, how do you show up and lead them? Are you short with them, curt, maybe too blunt? Maybe you ignore them altogether. You might even cancel meetings or avoid delegating work to them just because you don't feel like dealing with them. This is obviously not helping them, you, or anyone else. But what if instead you felt curious or compassionate? How do you show up and lead from these feelings? Maybe you ask more questions to check for understanding. Maybe you slow down and take the time to clearly communicate behavioral expectations, provide feedback on where and how they're currently not meeting them, and offer support without removing responsibility to help them meet those expectations going forward. Which approach do you think will get you better results faster? Only once you're confident that you've clearly communicated behavioral expectations, again, including consequences for not meeting them, and offered your support and coaching to help them be successful, can you be sure that they're now fully informed and able to decide for themselves whether they are willing to make a change. Listen, you can't make another person change. I'm sorry, it's just true. The only way they will ever change is if they choose to. But as their leader, you have to be sure you're giving them that choice rather than assuming they're already making it on purpose because they should know better. And how you choose to react to this person is entirely up to you. Regardless of their behavior, your leadership of them is your responsibility. So be sure to be intentional about what that experience is for you and them. Okay, step two, manage the difficult employee. As a leader and coach, it's important you understand where behavior comes from and how to help others change their behaviors and results. When it comes to people, and this is for everyone, not just the difficult person, how we experience one another is through behavior. So the difficult person is perceived as difficult by others because they are behaving in a way that others don't like. Perhaps they're negative and complain all the time, or maybe they're dismissive and rude. Maybe they interrupt and talk over others. Maybe they're directive and non collaborative. In most cases, people don't realize they're behaving in a way that others perceive as difficult. They don't intend to be difficult or disruptive. And even if they do know, they likely haven't been given clear enough expectations and feedback to actually know how to change their behavior. So, as I already mentioned, the first thing you need to do is to make sure you've clearly communicated behavioral expectations and ensured a mutual understanding of those expectations, including the consequences for not meeting them. If you're confident this was done effectively and they're still being difficult, then you need to provide timely and specific feedback on their behavior, the impact it's having on others, and the consequences of not changing that behavior. Use facts here. Share the observable behavior you've witnessed and leave your opinion out of it. Next, check in on their willingness to change their behavior. Remember, you can't make them change. They have to be willing to change. All you can do is provide them with the information they need to make an informed decision. Now it's important to hold space for them to process what's happening and ask questions to clarify anything they're curious about. Be patient and hear them out. Give them the opportunity to share their perspective. Be prepared for them to be upset and maybe even blame you or others for their behavior. This is human nature, so let them express their thoughts as they're processing. It doesn't mean you believe them or that you agree with them. But don't overindulge their lack of accountability. Allow them to get it out, then bring it back to the facts of the feedback you've shared and give them another opportunity to confirm their willingness to adjust their behavior. Ask how you can best support them, and then the two of you together can co-create that plan. The goal here is always to provide support without removing responsibility for them to make the change. Dealing with difficult people is a huge topic, and it's really hard to do it justice in a very brief video. So, if you want more support on this topic or any other leadership challenge, please don't hesitate to reach out and schedule a discovery call. And don't forget to download the High Impact One-to-One Meeting Toolkit to get even more guidance on managing your mind before you manage a difficult employee. Again, you can find that link in the description below.